Joseph Goebbels was born on October 29, 1897, in Reit, a small town in the Rhineland region of Germany. He was the third of 5 children born to Friedrich Goebbels, a factory clerk, and his wife, Katharina, a devout Catholic. Despite his humble beginnings, Goebbels would later rise to become one of Adolf Hitler's closest associates, the chief propagandist of the Nazi Party and one of the most infamous men in modern history. In his early years, Goebbels exhibited a strong intellect and a passion for literature and the arts. He developed an early interest in theater and wrote several plays during his school years. Goebbels suffered from a lifelong disability called clubfoot. This left him with a physical deformity of his left foot and greatly affected his self-esteem. However, he compensated for this by immersing himself in intellectual pursuits and developing a sharp intellect. In 1917, Goebbels enrolled at the University of Heidelberg, where he studied history, literature, and philosophy. It was during this time that he became deeply influenced by nationalist and anti-Semitic ideologies. He immersed himself in the writings of German philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche and Houston Stewart Chamberlain, the latter being well known for espousing ideas of German racial superiority and anti-Semitism. These ideas would shape his worldview and fuel his later actions. After completing his doctorate in 1921, Goebbels struggled to find a stable career. He worked briefly as a journalist and attempted to establish himself as a playwright. However, it was his fervent support for the emerging National Socialist German Workers' Party, commonly known as the Nazi Party, that would change the course of his life. In 1924, Goebbels joined the party and quickly became an influential figure within its ranks. His skills as a public speaker and propagandist were recognized by Adolf Hitler, who appointed him as the district leader for Berlin in 1926. In this role, Goebbels organized party rallies and orchestrated propaganda campaigns to promote Nazi ideals. Goebbels' talent for propaganda led him to be appointed as the head of the newly formed propaganda ministry in 1933, after Hitler's ascension to power. As the propaganda minister, Goebbels had unparalleled control over the media, arts, and culture in Nazi Germany. He effectively used propaganda to manipulate public opinion, spreading anti-Semitic and anti-communist narratives and glorifying Nazi ideology. When World War II broke out in September 1939, Goebbels was already firmly established as the head of the propaganda ministry in Nazi Germany. He utilized his position to control the narrative of the war and continued to promote the ideology of the Nazi regime. Goebbels saw propaganda as a crucial tool in mobilizing the German population and ensuring their unwavering support for the war. One of Goebbels' primary tasks during the war was to maintain morale and bolster public support for the German cause. He accomplished this through an extensive network of propaganda channels, including newspapers, radio broadcasts, films, and public rallies. Goebbels effectively controlled the flow of information and crafted a carefully curated narrative that portrayed the German military as invincible, and the Nazi cause as just. Goebbels' propaganda machine also demonized the enemies of the Reich. He directed his efforts towards vilifying Jews, communists, and other groups deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. Anti-Semitic propaganda reached its peak during the war, with Goebbels using it as a means to justify the persecution and eventual genocide of millions of Jews in the Holocaust. As the war progressed, Goebbels intensified his propaganda campaigns to maintain support amidst the challenges faced by Germany. He emphasized the idea of a total war, rallying the entire German population behind the war effort. This involved mobilizing women and children to contribute to the war economy, promoting war bonds, and fostering a sense of national unity and sacrifice. Goebbels also played a role in suppressing dissent and controlling information. He used propaganda to instill fear and quash any opposition or dissenting voices within Germany. Books and art deemed degenerate by the Nazi regime were banned, and artists and intellectuals who opposed the regime were silenced or persecuted. As Germany's military fortunes began to decline, Goebbels faced the challenge of maintaining morale in the face of setbacks and the growing devastation caused by Allied bombings. He continued to project an image of German strength and resilience, while downplaying the true extent of the losses suffered by the German military. In the final months of the war, Goebbels remained fiercely loyal to Hitler and the Nazi cause, despite the increasingly bleak outlook for Germany. As Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, Goebbels, along with his wife Magda and their 6 children, chose to stay in the city. On April 30, 1945, following Hitler's suicide, Goebbels assumed the role of Chancellor of Germany for one day. Realizing that the war was lost for Germany, Goebbels and his wife, Magda, poisoned their children before ending their own lives. Their suicides marked the tragic end of Goebbels' life, leaving behind a legacy of manipulation, propaganda, and the devastating consequences of Nazi ideology. The techniques he employed are still studied and analyzed today in the fields of media, history, and political science. His work is a chilling reminder of the problems and suffering that arise when centralized power controls the media narrative. Thanks for joining us. Remember to subscribe for more fascinating biographies.